From the 121st Psalm, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where is my help to come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The Lord shall watch over your going out and your coming in from this time forth forevermore. Amen. That is the text on the plaque on the newly restored wall at the corner of Washington and Green Streets. The dedication of that plaque will be a virtual one with just Rector Martha and Mayor Ray Morris in attendance at 4 o'clock on the Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. It'll be live streamed on Facebook and available later on YouTube. Obviously, the spike in coronavirus infections has necessitated adjustments and increased restraint on all of our parts. Perhaps I can take the plaque as a counterpoint to my current malaise. The Lord shall watch over your going out and your coming in from this time forth forevermore. It feels to me that nowadays, the news headlines preempt the celebrations of our liturgical calendar. Today is the feast of Christ the King, but I have to admit, I do not feel in the mood for an upbeat celebration. More than anything else, I feel dismayed. This Sunday, a year ago, saw Barbara and me welcoming our Colorado kids and grandkids for a week of family time and walks in the woods. By Wednesday, 27 of us had arrived for a Thanksgiving feast that had to be held in our garage. This year, it will be just the two of us. We will probably gather for a family Zoom call, but that is thin gruel compared to our normal banquets of too much food, with people contributing favorite dishes, with music late into the evening and lots of laughter. I think, though, that is only a fairly small part of the dismay that I am feeling. Just within the last 10 days, 4 close friends have each received dire health news, none of them COVID-related. The tensions around issues of race are agonizing for our entire society. The opioid crisis has been knocked off the front pages, but still kills 40,000 people a year in our country. I'm frankly distressed at the lackadaisical attitude many of us seem to have towards the norms of social distancing and wearing masks. Even with the hopeful promise of effective vaccines, I wonder and worry about how this coronavirus experience has made permanent changes to our life together. Will we again be free to hug one another in informal greeting or at the peace in church? Have handshakes, a traditional sign of trust, become suspect to be replaced with elbow bumps? Will favorite restaurants even be around when we feel it is safe to go out to dine? And what will my athlete grandson be missing as he spends his senior year in high school learning online? And we worry about our daughter who teaches primary grades music and is stressed beyond endurance. Our hippie kids in Vermont seem to be doing well in self-isolation on their small farm, but the economy has bashed them hard. And depending on which side of the election you were on, you might be dismayed at the results or otherwise dismayed at the aftermath. Either way, dismay could be what unites us. And what of those political differences? It feels to me as if our republic is in danger of coming apart at the seams. I think that our current reality was not foreseen by the founders. And I have not even mentioned wars and rumors of wars, or the real dangers of environmental destruction, the threats to biological diversity and the long-term effects of that, the fractured relationships among nations, and the lost consensus of what it takes to make a world, a culture, or a community work. So I am dismayed. And today is the feast of Christ the King, and Thursday leads directly to a feast of Thanksgiving. This Thursday, then, whether dining alone or with a few family members, from what perspective might we give thanks? Dare we be grateful for the hope that beyond our own confusions, there is one who holds history within loving hands and watches over our going out and our coming in, as proclaimed by the psalmist. The new wall plaque celebrates the restoration of the stonework that surrounds and supports the hill where our church stands. That wall is a sign of our commitment to the community. And more importantly, it is a parable of the endurance of God. Not that we have flourished for 180 years, but that God endures within the embrace of mystery. And the interior of our church gives a narrative context for our own stories. For a few moments, recall the two Tiffany windows that grace either end of our nave. As we enter the church, we are immediately drawn to the depiction of the birth of Jesus. The figures are naturalistic and very human. As you recall it now, the shepherds join Mary and Joseph in offering warmth not only to the baby Jesus, but also to you. We can be drawn into that core kindness of God with us, for whom Emmanuel Church is named. And we might be tempted to think that that is the entire gospel. And now, in your imagination, turn around and you will see another Tiffany window, but in a dramatically different style. This is Christ the King, stylized and transcending his humanity. We usually refer to this as the second coming window, but it is as King that Christ is depicted. And it is Christ as King that we celebrate today on this last Sunday of the church year. Next Sunday begins a new year with the season of Advent. The space in which we worship is held in tension of these two works of art. The earlier naturalistic picture of an infant Jesus is from the Gospel according to Luke. The later depiction of Christ the King represents the mature faith of John's Gospel. It is this adult Jesus who calls us to love our enemies and to do good to those that hate us. It is this mature Christ who beckons us to belong to the truth, which surely must mean that we at least be honest with ourselves about our internal conflicts and fears, about our dismay and our barely acknowledged prejudices. It is the risen Christ whom we name as King. The wisdom whoever chose these complementary window designs is that we keep both the warm and inviting Jesus and the more demanding, even awesome Christ the King, who in this morning's gospel calls us to feed the hungry, welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, and visit the imprisoned. It is the mature Christ who clarifies our vocation. That calling takes place not in the protected quiet of a beautiful sanctuary, but in the brokenness of our world. Even as we profoundly miss being together in church, there is perhaps a grace to be learned from worshiping at home with a mug of coffee next to us on a table. Sit quietly for a while with your own dismay. Do not rush to fix it, but rather befriend it. Live with the realization that the world is where we are called to live out our faith, not in an hour of comfortable piety each week. That's why the Christ the King window faces us as we leave church. It is sending us out into the world to love and serve. Think of those two windows representing the journey of your own faith. We begin in the happy finding of forgiveness, love, the company of fellow seekers, all in the warm light of Jesus. But if we get stuck there, then our faith is self-absorbed and bankrupt. Here is the good news. Know that while you cannot fix everything, you can do some things. You can give food to the hungry and drink to the thirsty. You can release someone from the prison of your enmity or indifference. Know that there will be days when dismay with the universe will overcome you, almost paralyze you. Know also that you will revel in the grace of a poem or a sunset, or you will know the startling beauty that is hidden deep within grief-tinged compassion. That is the good news of this feast of Christ the King, and of the two windows that hold our worship in a humanizing tension. You enter the church and walk down the aisle towards a Jesus who has come to us as Emmanuel, as God with us. You come to be forgiven and embraced by love. You depart commissioned by King Jesus. Be not dismayed. And here again, the psalm on the plaque. Take it as the balancing counterpoint to your own dismay. The Lord shall watch over your going out and your coming in, from this time forth forevermore. Amen.